I'm walking on the field. I'm 5'6", 135 pounds, soaking wet. And I'm just looking up at these guys like, oh boy, I could barely see over the line. But ultimately, I threw a few touchdown passes. I balled out, and I remember sitting on the sideline, and Ewald sitting next to me. He's like, for practice on Monday, report to the varsity field. And I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Wow. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Keenan Cooper, the Assistant Superintendent of St. Louis Park Schools, and I am here with the former regional president of LA Fitness, business marketer for Blue Hammer Roofing, a graduate of the 2003 St. Louis Park class, and he used to drive a real nice white SUV in high school. Please, please give it up for Arron Evans. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Well, I want to thank you for your time today, and we want to really get to hear your story so our community can just see how St. Louis Park has had an impact, and also your impact too goes further than we even know, as you're already in Texas doing some great things. So let's start off here with the beginning. Tell us about your family. Where did you grow up? Any siblings and stuff like that.
Okay. So I grew up in South Minneapolis. We moved to St. Louis Park when I was in seventh grade. Seventh grade. My mom's from Shreveport, Louisiana. My dad's from Minnesota. So a lot of down south roots. A lot of down south roots. Yeah, we grew up in went to St. Louis Park my seventh grade year. I think that was a culture shock for me, so to say. But it was a great thing. I think, just growing up in so many different communities and being around so many different cultures in my life has propelled me to where I'm at today.
Okay, so did you grow up with any siblings or anything?
So yes and no.
Okay.
I think we know how that one goes.
Yeah.
I have a sister. She's not my real sister, but when before my dad passed, he introduced her as my sister, so that was my sister for life.
Okay.
But more so is me and my mom growing up. She was a single mother. She did her best. She did great. Now I'm married. I have two kids. My daughter's 19. Ooh,
Wow.
19. She actually just got her nursing certificate, her certified nursing assistant certificate. She's in school in college right now to become a nurse. And my
Okay.
son is 12 years old, growing every day, eating all the food in the refrigerator.
Tell me about it. I mean, kids grow up fast. Now I have one son, and he's 18, so he started his first year of college too. So I know it goes fast, man. It goes
Yeah,
fast.
it's scary.
So being a parent and everything. Let's go back to your mom. I hear your mom was very involved with a lot of things that you were involved in school.
Oh yeah. My mom was my dad, my brother and sister all rolled into one, and she played that role very well. I commend her. Matter of fact, on Father's Day, I even buy her a card and say Happy Father's Day. So, but no, my mom was actively involved. I think one of the things that she wanted for me was just to make sure we didn't continue to live the way we lived. And so every step of the way, anything she could do, the sacrifices she made, were just, you know, phenomenal. So,
So you moved here to St. Louis Park. You said around seventh grade. So did you attend middle school in St. Louis Park or
no, I did not.
okay? But you started St. Louis. You started here at St. Louis Park High School, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
what was something that got you connected to the community? What did you do?
Ooh, so I wasn't even supposed to go to St. Louis Park.
Oh, so what happened there?
The whole family went to North High School.
Okay.
So on my dad's side, everybody on that side is pretty much a North High School graduate. Um, Andy Ewald and Mike Faber, who was the head football coach at the time, Andy Ewald was the assistant. They got wind that I was going to go to North High School. They also coached my uncle back in from he graduated in '96 from North High School. They coached my uncle who played for North High School, so that's how they kind of knew of me. They heard that I was going. They called my mom and was like, "That's going to be a terrible idea for him, especially where he's coming from. Bring him here with us, and we'll kind of look out for him." And that's really how I got to St. Louis Park High School.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I have a connection there. So Dr. Mike Favor
Hmm.
is a very I have a good connection with him as he's a superintendent uh, over in another school district, 287. And then you said Andy Ewall. So tell me a little bit about him. How's that relationship?
With Andy Ewald,
Yes.
oh man, that whether he knows it or not, he is probably like my father in afar, I'll call it.
Mm,
And I don't think I've ever expressed that to him, but I think we kind of have that relationship where what's understood doesn't have to be said.
wow.
He looked out for me. I mean, I was a young knucklehead, and he was the one always kind of ringing me back in. Um, there was never any special treatment in our relationship in terms of sports or anything like that. Everything was earned, but he was the one that always would pull me aside, no matter what it was, and set me straight. And I respected him for that because I didn't have that in my life. And I think that was, one of the biggest things. So, whenever I get an opportunity to stop back into Minnesota or whenever I get some free time, he's one of those guys that I'm reaching out to, just checking in on because all the things he did for me as a kid growing up.
So when you was in high school, this is an interesting story.
Oh
You
boy.
you had this white SUV. And you would take all the footballs and basketballs and have them packed up. And Andy would always be like, "What man? What are you doing here? What was your love with taking all the sports equipment?"
I used it. I used it. I was one of those guys that I just wanted to play, wherever it was. If there was a chance to sneak in the weight room and work out, I wanted to work out. If there was a chance to pull the truck over and play somewhere, we were playing. So I always had to have some equipment with me. And of course, that came up. And I'll be honest with you, we didn't have money to buy stuff like that. So it was like, well, that looks like it's free. So we're just gonna throw that in the truck. I know after every season he was like, "You gonna return my helmets?" And I'm like, "Oh, I do got that, don't I?"
Now, now here's something, and I want to make sure I'm correct on this. You were one of two, Andy told me, freshmen to play varsity. One of two, it
Yes.
started in ninth grade.
Yeah.
So how was that experience that you started off playing secondary, then you went over to playing quarterback. So just tell me that experience of joining the team and navigating, doing all those things.
Yeah, it was interesting. I remember it like yesterday. We had just finished our ninth grade scrimmage, and I'm in the locker room changing. And I remember the ninth grade coach. He did not like me. He thought I had a big head, and I probably did at the time. He looked at me one day in practice. I gotta say this. He looked at me one day in practice. He's like, "How long do you stare in the mirror at yourself?" And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. But as I got older, I realized what it was. I need to humble myself. But anyways, it was after our scrimmages. I was actually in the locker room, and I was changing, and I just remember one of the football coaches coming in yelling my name, and I'm like, "Uh oh, I'm in trouble. I did something."
Hmm.
And he's like, "No, we need you over at the varsity field for scrimmages. The starting quarterback just got hurt." And I'm like, okay. So I'm throwing my stuff on. I'm excited until I
Okay.
walk on the field. And we were scrimmaging De La Salle at the time, and this is when they had Dominic Sims, who went on to be a great Gopher legend. And I'm walking on the field. I'm 5'6", 135 pounds, soaking wet, and I'm just looking up at these guys like, oh boy, I could barely see over the line. But ultimately, I threw a few touchdown passes. I balled out, and I remember sitting on the sideline, and Ewald sitting next to me. He's like, for practice on Monday, report to the varsity field. And I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Wow.
And yeah, so I played of numerous positions my freshman year. I think for me, I didn't care where I was. I just wanted to be on the team. I just wanted the experience. So the first varsity game we played in Duluth, I played quarterback for a series. I went 3 for 3 though on passing.
Okay, yep.
Talk about that. Make sure you add that in. And then the senior quarterback was back, so he played. So they moved me to running back, and then our I think second game of the year against Marion Barber in Wyzetta, they throw me in at kick return because a kick returner got hurt, and he's like, "Aaron, go return kicks," and I'm like, "I've never done that in my life." And I remember fielding it. I break up the sidelines for like 40 yards. I get smacked on the sidelines, and I just laid there because it was all surreal to me. I went from playing at a junior high field in a dirt patch to now
Right.
with hundreds of fans screaming and yelling, and I'm 14 years old. So that experience, man, it was just incredible, man. Like if I can remember anything about high school, that was probably one of my best memories is just being able to go out there on that field my freshman year in front of all those people.
Wow. And then you also played a lot of basketball too, right?
Oh
Was
yeah. Oh yeah.
so so that was another thing that brought some connection to you, got you involved here in the community. How was that playing? Going from football season to now you're playing basketball.
Here's the crazy thing. When I moved to St. Louis Park, they were telling me that I couldn't play both sports. It was miscommunication, but they were telling me I couldn't play
Okay.
both sports. And I almost gave up basketball for football. Football was
Wow.
always my first love, and I was like, well, then I'm not playing basketball this year. And they were like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. We're gonna figure out how to make it work. But basketball was my second love. Um, but what I realized is that I had equal opportunities in basketball for life. So it was one of those things where I can go play football, I can go play basketball. I was pretty decent at both. But basketball was fun. I don't even know how to explain it any other way. You didn't have to be in the heat for 2 days.
Uh-huh.
Even in college, you didn't have to report to college a month early. You can come when you want it. But no, basketball was fun. Larry Ron Ling, honestly, when I first started there, I didn't think he liked me, but
Huh.
come to learn very fast, Larry was just kind of tough on some of the things I did because he expected more out of me. And still to this day, and Larry Ron Ling was the varsity coach at the time.
Okay.
Still to this day, every time I see that man, I'm forever grateful for him as well too.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think about it too. I never had the opportunity to play football, but basketball was my sport. I loved it. So if you're ever in town, maybe we'll get on the court. Maybe I.
I'm probably 25 pounds over my playing weight. These knees don't act the same no more.
I know I'm about 40. So
It's gonna be a slow game.
so what about the classroom? During your time here in St. Louis Park, was there any teachers that really, um, left a lasting impact on you or any classes?
Um, you know, the truth about me in high school was I wasn't the best student. I really wasn't. Like I would go to class, but I was the jock in high school where I kind of focused more on sports and just passing rather than being the student I needed to be. And as I look back on that, that's some of the things that I really try to implement with my kids. I mean, we learn from our mistakes and we try to make our kids better, right?
Hmm.
Um, as far as high school goes, I'm so far removed from it as far as naming one teacher. I couldn't even name any teacher right now. But I do remember when Andy Ewald was my substitute.
Okay, so so how was he when he stepped in as a substitute?
Oh man, I was sitting there. I got the class. I'm sitting there, and I look up, and he walks into the room, and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "I'm the substitute for today." I'm like, "Oh God." And he's just staring at me like the whole class because he had like a study hall type thing going for us. He's just staring at me the whole class, and he's like, "So this is what you do in this classroom, huh?" And I'm like, "Oh man, I'm in trouble." But no, he was good. He was good. It was good to see him in a classroom. But as far as I've listen, man, I've have continued my education so far that the high school education but kind of became a blur after a while.
Hmm.
But one thing I do recall the most about high school was how the teachers actually were supportive at St. Louis Park. If I fell behind in an assignment, they would definitely let me come after class. They would sit down with me. They would help me. I remember that like yesterday because there was a lot
Wow.
of times with me
Yeah.
where I had to, last 3 weeks of the semester, I was playing catch up. So if there's anything I could say to anybody that's watching it that is in school, is high school is important. And I'm sure we'll get to it, but I had to go the JUCO route just because of my grades. And if there
Explain
was
more about that route.
so for the junior college route is, I had several offers to go play different places, but I couldn't go to a university straight out because my GPA wasn't the highest in. Also, test scores weren't the greatest. So I had to take an extra 2 years just to go to junior college route just because of what I did in high school. So before we even transition to that, the biggest thing I want to say is take your book serious
Yeah.
because I focused so much on sports and the friendships that I was trying to create during high school that it actually set me back a couple years in where what I could have done. And no regrets, but at the end of the day, if I just would have paid attention a little bit more, who knows how fast things would have happened for me a little bit more just by going to class on time, doing the assignments, and now all my kids are A and B students. Just so you know,
Oh,
they're
that,
not
all
they're not
right.
making that mistake like me. But so yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So as you had the support of the teachers, you had Andy Wall guiding you through and supporting you. So you graduate, you go to junior college out in California, correct?
Yes, for 30 days.
Okay, 30 days. So talk about the 30 days using beautiful city of California. And then where did you go next and about that experience?
So you know how I got there really quick. I played at a JUCO showcase. So at the time, I, this is going to be going to a long story. I'll try to keep it short. But I was playing. I was training with um, um, Chris Humphreys, Darren Clark, all those guys who were
Okay.
huge names back then. With James Ware, who I believe he coaches at Park Center, and then I think he's back in Hopkins now. But he was training me. He was helping me through the whole experience because at that time I decided I wanted to play basketball. We didn't throw this in there, but I broke my leg my freshman year.
Of high
Yeah,
school?
yeah, of high school. Yeah, it was like our
Okay.
fifth game of the year. It was a freak accident. Like my cleat got stuck in the ground. It was something. It wasn't a size difference or anything like that. It was just an awkward play. But anyways, I broke my leg my freshman year, and as I finished up football my senior year, I was kind of like, man, I don't know if I really want to get hit by these big guys anymore. And I had the same equal opportunities in basketball, and it was like, well, let's play basketball. So James Ware was training me. He would invite me down. One day he invited me down to play, and I'm literally sitting there putting all my stuff on. And Chris Carr, the former dunk champion for the Minnesota Timberwolves, was sitting there, and he's like, "You're Arron Evans, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You know who I am?" I'm like, "Absolutely, I know who you are. How do
Mhm.
you know? How do you know who I am?" And he's like, "I watched you play, against such and such. You had like 25 points in like one quarter." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that was me." And he said he started inviting me to open runs and stuff. So one time he invited me to a couple open runs with Kevin Garnett, Randy Moss.
Wow.
So I got to play with a lot of elite people. And Chris Carr and James Ware got me down to a Missouri showcase where I actually did well, and that's how I got to California. It was Feather River College in Quincy, California, in the mountains right outside of Lake Tahoe. Beautiful. And we had a rodeo team. So when you pull into the school, there was horses on the and the school was like in the mountains. It was pretty sweet. I was homesick. I was way too far from home. So
Mm,
I withdraw, came back. I did a semester at MCTC to become eligible for the next upcoming season. James Ware helped me get into Lake Region State College in North Dakota. I played a season there, did really well. They were going to scale back on my full ride to help bring more players into North
okay.
Dakota. And so I let them know that, I got to go then because I really can't afford school like that. So I let people know I was a free agent at that time, and I got picked up by Clinton Community College in Iowa. I went there. I was all region, all conference there, and then went through several recruiting measures, and I actually had my daughter that year. So
Wow. Yeah.
I needed to stay close to home. So Denver University was the one I was pretty much ready to go to. They were recruiting me like crazy. And then, I had to be realistic. I had to also be a father and still chase my dreams at the same time. So the day my daughter was born, Bemidji State University called me literally the morning after my daughter was born. And they're like, hey, man, we did X, Y, and Z. We did our research on you. We're going to offer you a full ride to be here. I,
Just they did their research and everything and said you got a full ride.
yeah, yep, yep.
So as you think about that story of you saying I didn't have the grades and I didn't have this, but there was still an opportunity for you to be able to attend college. So I think that's so important for our
Mm-hmm.
students to be able to hear how you navigated that and the resilience that it took
Yes.
to navigate each of those steps along the way.
100%.
That's important.
Coming out of high school, I knew my goal was once I set it on basketball, I want to play college basketball. Um, the crowd I was running with at the time, they were all athletes. They were all going to college. So first, surround yourself with people that want to grow, right?
Hmm.
You have to surround yourself with people that want to grow. Through the times I've let go of a lot of friends, which sucks, but yeah, there was always that ambition. I remember telling my mom I want to go to school, I want to study business, and I want to open my own restaurant. That was always my goal. I don't know why. That was always my goal. And so she helped me find ways to get into college along with the people that helped me with those camps. And sports was a huge thing that helped me get into college. But I was going to school. There was no way, whether I had to work a separate job, I was going to school because, I needed that extra education to give myself an advantage in the workforce. And goal, yeah, everybody wants to go play professional sports, but I knew the reality of where I was going. Yeah, I was going to try, but the realistic ideal of this, that doesn't even last forever. Right.
Right.
So I needed the education. So yeah, I didn't have the grades, but I knew what I wanted and nobody was going to stop me. So even when I withdrew from Feather River and came back and took my class at MCTC, I was headstrong on this. It was a thing where I knew I needed this and there was going to be no stopping me.
Wow.
Mhm.
So so after you graduate and continue to go on, your next role is then you got into LA Fitness. Was that the
Yeah,
next? And the
yeah.
and talk about just I mean, you started off and you became a regional president?
Yes, regional vice president.
Wow.
My first year there, I had, those little small little contracts they try to give you to go overseas. It's like 40 grand to play in Greece. And it's like 40 grand a year and miss time with my daughter again or get a job. Um, Fitness, you want to stay in, so what you know. So I was like, let me just get a job at a gym. So I interviewed at Lifetime and I interviewed and a young lady I was dating at the time. She's like, you should check out LA Fitness. I'm like, what is LA Fitness? She's like, I don't know. I keep seeing them pop up everywhere. So I
Hmm.
interviewed, got the job, um, had my little business degree. And I'm like, I want to run the whole gym. And they're like, that's not how this works. So I'm like, well, I got this degree. And they're like, well, yeah, that's cool, but you still need to have experience. So, another thing for the people watching, make sure you're tracking some experience, whether it's an internship, whether it's you actually having a summer job in the field that you want to get a job in. Experience and degrees go hand in hand. So
Yes.
that's a nugget.
I
Um,
know. Appreciate that nugget.
yeah. But no, I got hired. It was a sales job ultimately. I remember sitting there and they're like, this young lady just made $1,000 in 1 week. And I'm like, man, that's like one financial aid check. And that's how my mind was working at the time.
Man, I can relate. I relate to those days, financial aid checks, and then you
Yeah.
look up out of college and you're looking at, ooh, maybe I didn't need to take all that money.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, that I gotta wait a whole semester for that one check, you know? And she got it in a week. I'm like, sign me up.
Hmm.
Um, my first month there, I beat all the salespeople out. I got promoted really fast. I was 23 years old, living in my mom's basement, making $7,000 a month. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the competitiveness of sports, me continuing my education, me being cultured, raised in the inner city of Minneapolis, then moving to, you know, St. Louis Park on the outskirts in the suburbs, helped me to mold such a different mentality towards everything and a way to communicate with people where I just flourished. And then as soon as that started happening, I realized really quick that I got a lot of friends that could probably excel at this. So I started recruiting people that I knew to come in, and I personally trained them and developed them. And before you know it, LA Fitness was looking at me like I was some kind of unheard guy. And so they started giving me bigger roles, bigger roles. And before I know it, I was running the whole state of Minnesota. I had Michigan. I also had Nebraska. And then I got moved out to Texas to run the Texas market. So that was about 17 years of my life of LA Fitness.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
You're not homesick anymore. I mean, you all the way in Texas now, so
Do you see the sun?
I know that is beautiful. I've
Yeah.
had a chance to experience Texas. I had a chance to see San Antonio, Houston. It is beautiful down
Yes.
there, and the weather. Because you know, up here in Minnesota, it's getting ready to get below zero here in the next few weeks, and I'm a little jealous, just a little bit.
Yep.
So,
We got a high of 70 today, just so you know.
I'm trying not to show any hate during this during this time here. So, right now, tell everyone what you're doing right now at this time.
So 5 months ago, I think me and my wife sat down and I basically we basically came to the conclusion that I've ran my course with LA Fitness. And Blue Hammer Roofing actually reached out to me and was interested in bringing me on to kind of help with the management side of things. And first, I was like, I'm not climbing on nobody's roof. I'm not knocking on nobody's door. Then they showed me the P&Ls, and I was like, well, I love roofs now. No, I am the market partner for Blue Hammer Roofing in Dallas. And yeah, it's been a phenomenal ride. I've been here about 6 months now, and um, I have roughly 80 people underneath me right now that I'm responsible for training and developing. Ultimately, I oversee project managers who oversee projects. So they do the door knocking, they do inspections on roofs, but more importantly, they sell roofs and manage teams as far as project coordinators, estimators, things like that. So
Okay, well, I just want to go back to something, one thing here before I get to my last question, but I want to go back here to your mom. So
yes.
when I hear your story and I hear your story of just being so resilient, from navigating high school, being new to the area, new to St. Louis Park, um, what you went through in football, starting off as a freshman, and then after graduating, figuring out those next steps, but you kept pushing, kept pushing. Tell me how your mom plays a role into that.
Oh man.
Mhm.
Oh man. She plays a big role in it. We talk every day. She's my biggest motivator. She asks all the questions that are not socially acceptable. How much is in your bank account? It's like, what are you talking about? You know. But no, she's instrumental to my success. Without saying too much, like we grew up in the inner city during that times where, you know, it was hard. The drug epidemic was hard. My mom fell into that trap. She moved to St. Louis Park, got clean, and then took me in. and just basically made sure that I had everything I needed. And even still to this day, she calls me and she's like, "You tired?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, you need to go to sleep and do this and do that." It's like, "Mom, I am a grown man. I don't need you to, But she was always that one person in my corner, no matter how bad I messed up or how great I did. She always had my back through thick and thin. If she had $5 left, she would give me her last $5 to make sure I'm all right. Nothing I've accomplished in life would be possible without her.
Well, that's one of the things that as I was learning about you is everything I learned about you, I learned also too about your mom and how your mom was right there with you through everything. So I just wanted to make sure you had her name in this because if people here talk about you, they talk about your mom and how much she was involved and how just resilient she was. So, man, you make sure you get on that phone and tell mom, I love you and I appreciate you. So
Definitely.
so my last question is one of the things we do here is we have a portrait of a learner and we talk about our students ascending to their greatness. And if there's anything you could go back and you could tell students here in St. Louis Park about ascending to their greatness, what is one thing that you would tell them as you look back on your time in St. Louis Park and to where you're at today?
Um, I think the biggest thing is for me, I wasn't much of a reader
Hmm.
at all. And now I actually have a book club where we actually read. We read a lot.
Okay.
And a lot of these guys in this book club own their own businesses. They're head of IT. You become who you surround yourself with. Yeah, it's cool to be with the in crowd right now, but when that in crowd is not the crowd to be around anymore, do you have the wherewithal to actually separate yourself from that? I think it starts early. Habits are the biggest things that you need to develop early because, we're actually reading a book for the company right now called The Compound Effect, and it talks about habits and it talks about a guy pulling a small tree out of the ground that's easy. A medium sized tree, it took him a little while to dig, but he got it out. But the big bark tree, the oak tree that's been there for years, is deeply rooted. Your
Mm.
habits are basically going to become deeply rooted in you. So what you practice, who you become, who you be around is ultimately going to become you. So if there's anything I can tell anybody is watch the people you're with. Surround yourself with ambitious people that actually want to grow. And when you can't grow no more with that person, it doesn't mean befriend them. It just means find another person that you can latch on to. Because we're creatures of habit. And if we find people that have great habits and are successful, we'll become successful. So that's one thing I wish I could have redone. And there's no regrets, but there's one
Yeah.
thing I wish I could have redone, and that's simple. Just going back and not necessarily befriending people fast, but actually increasing my circle with people that wanted to become successful, that had different ideas on things, and stop being so close minded.
Well, you done more than one thing, and you dropped more than one nugget in this podcast here. So, Arron, this has been a pleasure. This has been awesome, and your story here will be played for the whole community and everyone else just to see how they can also ascend to their greatness and the things that you have accomplished and are continuing to accomplish. And so, St. Louis Park is proud of you, and so is your mom and your family. So, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Cooper. I appreciate your time.